2021. It promises to be a much better year than 2020, although we don't really know, do we? Globally, we don't really know what's going to happen. We certainly didn't know at the start of 2020 how it was going to pan out at all. It's come as a bit of a surprise to everyone. What did I want to talk about today? Well, with all of the crazy, up in the air, unknown things that happened last year, I thought it would be a good time, not to mention it's the start of the year, that we think about, well, what is it we want out of 2021? Are we going to just leave it to happenstance? You're going to just leave anything that you might want to happen to just roll along. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And that does tend to be the way a lot of us approach things if we don't spend a little bit of time actually thinking about what we want out of what's to come, what goals we want to set. We whinge about the things that didn't happen that we want to happen, but we didn't actually do anything to make them happen. So I wanted to give you a couple of tips to make your future this year an intentional year, a year where you put an intention out, the things that you want, goals, you can call it whatever you like. There's so many people who say, oh, I don't like goal setting and I don't like this and I don't like that. What you need to do is find what works for you and stop thinking about all the things and listening to and taking into account all the things that these other people say. Don't do goals, don't set this, don't do that. You need 60 days, you need 90 days to set a habit. You need to work out, give all those things a try for sure and give them a really good try too. Don't give up. But you need to work out what it is that works for you. So with that little rant over, I want to give you some tips, some things that I'm trying this year. It's a little bit of what I've done in the past. It's a little bit of what I've been listening to over this period, this Christmas, New Year period as well. And I thought, it's a great idea. I'm going to share some of these and mixing it in with the things that I do normally anyway at this time of year. And the first one is reflection. Now, many of us think, especially with the year that we've just had, 2020, what a crap year. Let's just not think about it again. Let's just put it so far into the rear vision mirror that it's not something we even think about. But no, what we really should do is reflect. What things worked for you personally and business-wise and what things did not. It's only then when we can learn what we don't want to repeat. So there'll be things in there that did work and things that didn't work. When I say worked and didn't work, if something was a waste of your time or your energy or your money on reflection, looking back at it, then they're not things you want to repeat. So being aware that that's what happens is really important. And just on the flip side of that, when you reflect, don't forget to see all the wins, see all the things that did work, both personally and professionally. What did work in your life in 2020? Because yes, it was a crap year in general, but actually, I'm sure there are things that happened in 2020 that worked for you, that they provided you with more time in some way. Well, actually, we're all in quarantine, so it's a bit of time there. Or maybe you got more money for something in particular that you weren't expecting. And perhaps there was a period of time where you had some more energy for one reason or another. And again, it's in your personal and your professional life, because whether we like it or not, they're very much intertwined. They don't exist in isolation. So having one working really well and the other one not working really well will eventually bring down the one that's working well to a suboptimum level. So it's much better, not that I'm thinking you'll ever actually achieve proper balance per se, but having both of them and reflecting on both your personal and your professional or business life and trying to make them both rise together is a much better way to be looking at these things. So I think you should reflect on both personal and professional business life. So you've done this reflection. How to do this reflection? Well, one thing that you can do, and it's what I heard on a podcast a couple of days ago, is grab your calendar. Have a look. Go back since January 2020. Look at all those meetings that you had. Look at all of the time that you booked in for a massage, or to go for your run, or to go to the gym, or maybe you go and you get therapy, whatever it is. What kind of things that you did that were business related, what kind of things you did that were personal, and how much time did you waste, perhaps, as well. Now, in doing this, you might find it challenging because you may not have set your calendar up in a way that things are noted as you do them. But I think most of us these days do have a few things in our calendars because our lives get so busy, we do need a way to manage it. And perhaps it's a good idea if you follow these steps going forward for the next few years, then taking what we're doing now and thinking about what you're going to do in January 2022, I would suggest you start calendaring things so that you can reflect back to see what worked and what didn't work in this strategy that we're talking about here. So do some reflection. What worked, what didn't work, even writing it down, you'll find is very good. And don't forget to celebrate those wins. Just the same, don't forget to release the things that didn't work. Don't carry it with you. It's one thing for us to look at it and say, that's a thing that didn't work. Oh dear, and I don't want to repeat it. But you need to say it to yourself in a way that you can let it go and not repeat it over and over again. Because often we get into this, and perhaps even just the having the vision of it is one it will work for you. But if not, maybe getting your journal out, things like that, and actually reflecting on why it didn't work, blah, 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 blah. And then releasing it and saying, okay, that's fine. It happened. It didn't work. Personal and professional, business life. I'm releasing it now. However you choose to do that, there are plenty of ways that people do that that work for them individually. So you've reflected, you've celebrated, and you've released the negative that happened in the last year. I mean, especially things that you had no control over, I should add. There's a lot of last year that none of us had any control over, which actually brings one of the points up, which I often like to make, and that is none of us have actually as much control as we like to elude ourselves that we do in our lives and what happens to us. However, we do have some, and we can be intentional, which is what we're talking about today, trying to be intentional for the coming year. So once you've done all that, you've got a good handle on what went wrong, what went right, you celebrated it, you released, you did all of that. Now we can look forward. We can look into 2021. We can take what we've just reflected upon, the good and the bad, and we can make a plan for the future, make a plan for 2021. We can say, okay, this is my goal for 2021. We can put it out there, whatever date that you want, whether it's the end of the year or whenever. And these are the things I want to do to get there. But hey, I noticed in 2020 when I did that, they didn't work. So maybe if I did it this way, maybe if I approached it from another angle, maybe if I just flipped it on its side, whatever, then that will work. But you're actually going to be intentional with that, with the knowledge of what has happened in 2020. So your intention is even stronger, because you can make decisions that will reflect the things that have already happened. And you'll be much more likely to hit the goals that you set for yourself in 2021. Now, one other small tip, which I really like, and I have done it in my calendar actually for the last few years, sort of, but not to this granular way. And I think that I'm going to change my calendar a little bit to more reflect this. And that is using the colors. Now, I use Google Calendar, which makes it quite easy to color the different types of activity that you are scheduling into your calendar. I do that now, but I don't do it to this extent. So what I was listening to and wanted to reflect back to you and perhaps suggest that you give it a go as well, because I think I will. And that is that you use different colors for the different types of activities. So if it's an activity that's a personal growth type of activity, or personally like a business activity, or if it's say you're a volunteer, it's a volunteering activity, because I do a lot of volunteering, which is why I put that one in there. Maybe it's a health one, maybe like I run regularly, so maybe I put anything that's like running or health related into a particular color, or maybe it's a catching up with friends that goes in a particular color. So that when you look at your week, for example, you can see by the color. So say yellow was I had put in my business meetings in yellow, then I will know that I have done quite a bit of business this week because my business meetings are in yellow and I've connected with a bunch of people. Maybe I put my Facebook Lives in and I put them in as orange, and I look across and I think, oh, I need to have higher energy on those days, and so I can make sure I come to that day with that kind of energy. And maybe I get to the end of a month and think, oh, I'm feeling really tired, and I look back and I can see that I didn't have a lot of, say, baby blue color or whatever, because that's the color that I've used for my own personal, looking after self-care sort of things like my running or maybe going to get a massage or some other kind of thing, or having, coffee with friends. So you can understand how you can group things together based on different categories that work in your life. And if you then are good at scheduling and you're consistent in your calendar, you can look and see where maybe you could be doing a little bit more self-care stuff, or maybe a bit more follow-up in your business, or whatever. You can see it actually very clearly. It's a very simple tip, this one, but you can see it really clearly at a glance because the colors will let you know that maybe you don't have enough self-care, or you haven't had enough business follow-up, or blah, 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 blah. You can play with it as you like, but just see the power of that in its simplicity, actually. So anyway, there you go. One last thing. The video that I did on New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, one or the other, that was all about you having a word for the year. That's all about the intentional stuff that we were just talking about with your calendar. So do you have a word for the year? Mine is visibility. Here I am being visible. I will be doing my best to be as visible as possible in 2021, this crazy year that's coming up, which is going to be very exciting. So I wonder, what is your word? Think about it, and I would love to hear it. Put it in the comments down below, and let's hit 2021 like it's the best year ever, because it will be. All right, take care, and let me know what else you would like me to chat with you about. Bye.